right, welcome everybody to the Dance Medicine Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alexis Sams, owner of AZ Dance Medicine Specialist here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm super excited. This is actually Nick's first podcast with me. So I'm going to formally introduce Nicholas Herring Harmon. If I am like the captain of the AZ Dance Med ship, Nick is like the engine. He is like the entire bottom of the ship, like all the inner workings. Like he keeps everything going. He's phenomenal. I love this guy. I love this dude. But if you just want to take just a quick second, Nick, because we could be here all day just talking about Nick's credentials. But if you just want to just kind of introduce yourself to our audience, just let people know like what your dance background is and all that good stuff.
Well, the feeling is definitely reciprocated to Dr. Alexis, but I am Nicholas Herring Harmon, and I am from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have been in Arizona for 2 years now, and at AZ Dance Med for 4 months.
We're going on 4 months, yeah.
4 months, 4 exciting months. My background in dance, I have an undergraduate degree in dance performance from Ball State University, and I also hold an Indiana teaching license in high school. While also now obtaining a master's in dance from Arizona State University and also the Teaching Artist Praxis Certificate for K through 12 dance education. So I love dance. That's apparent from my credentials, and now the executive assistant at AZ Dance Med. So.
And tell them just a little bit, especially like for our younger audience, like what's been like your dance like training performance background.
Oh my goodness.
I know
Lots
it's
of
long.
training.
It's
Lots.
long, but just like the Cliff
quick,
Notes
yes.
version.
So competition dance, motivation to dance in Indiana. Competition dancer for a while before training in ballet, Cicchetti. Also modern dance, Horton technique, Graham technique, Limon technique.
All those techniques, friends.
All of those great things. Hip hop. Also touring with Illuminate from America's Got Talent for several years in Atlanta, Georgia. Anderson Young Ballet Theater.
He's done many things.
Lots of things.
Lots
ASU
of
dance. Winter Guard and Color
Guard.
Guard. I left that out. So lots of things. Former teacher at Lafayette Jeff High School and Avon High School.
Shout out to Lafayette and Avon.
Woo!
But yeah, I'm just super excited that Nick is on board with us, helping us just grow and reach further than we ever have. We're just doing so much. But today we're going to talk about one of our most popular topics. It's becoming one of my favorite things to talk about because it's just so instrumental and just so eye-opening to so many of our clients who see us here in our Phoenix clinic, so many of our clients we treat online, so many of our educators that we work with in training and workshops. So we are going to talk about flexibility.
Flexibility.
Everybody wants to know how to be more flexible. Yeah. Yeah, why are we going to talk about flexibility? Because everybody wants to be more flexible. We're always, if you go on social media, you see all these things about improving your splits or overstretching or flexibility challenges. There are lots of questions and concerns about maximizing performance by way of improving flexibility. So we're going to tackle some things. We're going to talk about how we think about flexibility at AZ Dance Med and within our Dance Med Specialist Network. And yeah, give you some things to maybe think about. We talked about what we were going to do before a little bit on this podcast. So I wanted Nick to kind of share, and I'll share as well. As a teacher, as a dance educator, and as a performer, like what is your current, perspective on like the concept of flexibility? And I'll say specifically like when you're like teaching, when you're working with dancers, kind of regardless of, age, but it usually tends to be younger ages. But what's been like your personal, thoughts, or what's been kind of like the thoughts when you're like teaching, like the general consensus among teachers about flexibility? What are the challenges, the questions? What are the things being done? What are the frustrations about flexibility in general from the teacher's perspective?
I think, and my background being a lot in Western concert dance, has a lot of perspective on flexibility. I know for myself as a performer, and when I was growing up in my training, my wonderful dance teacher said, as dancers, as dance performers, it's our ability to get our legs at or above 90 degrees to the front side to the back on both legs. And so I always had this perspective of like, to be in dance and to be flexible was to have the strength, the stamina, and the mobility to have, these lower limbs above 90 degrees in all directions. And that was kind of our way of evaluating where we stood in terms of being flexible. As a teacher, my perspective quickly changed to how could I condition students? What exercises could I lead them through to help them gain the strength? And I think that a lot of flexibility comes from strength and stamina. That's what I learned as a performer. And so how could I give those tools to students so that they could reach those goals that they had for themselves?
Yes, and that's basically kind of, actually, Nick pretty much hit the nail on the head. What I wanted to kind of continue to talk about in terms of flexibility. I can say a lot of our clients, a lot of the instructors that enroll like in our certification program or take some of our workshops, when they talk about flexibility, they also just talk about best stretching practices. A lot of mentality focuses on stretching as the solution to improving flexibility. However, that's just a component of flexibility. And that's the big thing that we wanted to talk about today. The concept, or if we had to define flexibility, which is actually the title of the podcast, Defining Flexibility. Flexibility in general is the ability for a body or a body segment to move through a range of motion. That's basically foundationally like what flexibility is. Why is that important? Because if you think about just the ability to move through a range of motion, the ability for, in a very simple non-dance context, the ability for me to raise my arm above my head, the ability for me to lift my legs so I can step up, take the stairs, lift up, move myself forward to ascend a staircase. Basic range of motion to accomplish a movement. That's basically what flexibility is. Why is that important? Because if you think about range of motion to accomplish a task, it's not just about what the muscles are doing. It's not just about the condition of the actual muscle tissue. And I think that's where sometimes people get hung up in a dance context. So, let's talk about splits, okay? We'll use that because that's what, something very popular, something that we get it all the time. There's always dancers coming into the clinic wanting to have better splits. So
I was one of those clients.
Yeah. And side note, if you look on our social media, if you follow us on Instagram, you'll see his before and after from his first session where we helped him with the splits. But yeah, let's use splits as an example. I know that there's somebody who's listening right now or who's watching this video who either it's themselves or their dance educator that is working with a student who is having trouble with splits, and they have tried all the stretches. And I'll give you a second example. We can talk about splits, or we can talk about improving foot point, having a tight ankle or a tight split. You have tried the foot stretchers, you have tried all the YouTube videos, you've tried all the downloads for all the best stretches, you've tried the contract and relax, and you've tried the this and the that, and the dancer's still stuck, or you're still stuck. Thinking in a concept of flexibility being range of motion can potentially open your mindset to, is there something else other than muscle that might be holding back that range of motion in that body part? So let's just think basically. We'll go back and talk about splits. What else is going on? What else is in the splits area? So a lot of times difficulty with splits is tightness in like the hamstrings or the front of the hips. across like where the top of the hip, where the quad starts or something like that, or there can be tightness in the hamstring, either closer to like the glutes or the buttocks or closer to the back of the knee. That's a lot of times where students or where dancers feel their restriction. But let's think, what else is in that area? Lots of things. Lots of things are in that area. There's vascular tissue, there's blood vessels, there's lymphatic vessels, there's nerve tissue. There is a bone in it. There are bones coming together and creating joints. There's fluid in that area, flowing through that area. Let's see, what else is in that area? If we're talking about the top of the hip, we're also kind of bumping up against the digestive system. Yeah, that's where like some of your intestines are. Some going into the low back area. That's where your kidneys and stuff are. So would it be advantageous to think about range of motion, other things in that area that might be holding back a body segment from being able to accomplish that range of motion, that flexibility that you're looking to achieve? Would it be advantageous to think maybe I should look at those other things in that area and not just focus so much on the muscles? Yes, like when we say it, everybody's like, yeah, it makes sense. So, yes, that's the big focus of what we do here, and what we do in terms of educating our dance educators. You may have heard me mention a couple times, even in this podcast, we have our certification program, and one of the biggest things that we talk about is this very concept, the concept of flexibility being related to range of motion of a body part, moving through a given task or a given motion, and what other things might be holding the body back other than muscle, bone, and joint. So hopefully that perspective maybe opens a door, or opens an opportunity for you to think a little bit differently when you're working, even if it's yourself or when you're working with your students or your dance company members, on the concept of improving flexibility. Remember that it's a global, it's a bigger thing beside just your muscle tissue. So keep that in mind. In terms of how we address it here, Nick kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. A lot of times, flexibility, the ability to go through a range of motion, is directly related to stability. Stability and safety. How safe the body feels to go into that range of motion. Safety first, we always know that term. If the body doesn't feel safe in a given range of motion or a given movement task, it will protect the body and not allow the body to go into that range of motion, aka you're tight. For whatever reason, if it perceives that area or perceives that range of motion to be some type of safety threat, it will not let you go into that area. Your body loves you. Your body doesn't want anything to happen to you. So, taking Nick as an example, trying to drop into a split, he's stopped at a certain point where his stability limit is. Something doesn't feel right in his body if he tries to drop lower, so his body tightens up and is like, Nick, no, we're going to stop you right here. This is what we know. This is what's safe. If we go anymore, I can't guarantee something might happen. So a lot of times the body tightens up against moving into a range of motion that it feels is not it's not ready for, or is not safe. So again, where can those safety threats, or where could those considerations for safety be coming from? And yes, it can be coming from muscle tissue, but it can also be coming from some of those other structures and things that we mentioned. It can be coming from a core stability deficit. It can be coming from tightness in another body system, tightness in the lymphatic system. We do a lot of lymphatic work in education here because fluid flow is important to body flow or body movement. So you've probably heard, the general statement, the body is 2/3 water. Okay, so can you think about what might happen if that 2/3, yeah, which it kind of roughly is, what's going on if that 2/3 is not able to flow well? If you have a backup somewhere for some reason, there may be restrictions in movement. So we look at the lymphatic system very easily and very simply because a lot of times that holds things back. In terms of stability, looking at core stability. Another thing that we talk about a lot here is when we talk about core stability, everybody knows that your core stability is related to your spine. Everybody also knows that your neck is part of your spine, but very few people look at your neck for core stability. Yeah, and we should. So a lot of times when we're talking about removing safety threats, promoting stability, making sure that you have a good stable foundation to allow movement into that range of motion, sometimes we have to look at stability, and sometimes we have to look at stability at the upper core is what we call it. Yeah, neck and jaw area. So that's another thing that you might want to kind of consider in terms of not just general basic stretching, but looking in other areas or looking for other possible safety threats that might be holding the body back from achieving the full range of motion. I hope this making sense? Does it make sense? I mean,
It makes your.
I hope it's making sense, guys. I totally hope it's making sense. Yeah, just those two basic things is the real big point that we want it to drive home. The last thing that I would say is, actually, it's really funny. We always have, I feel like the more and more we work together and the more we help clients, we have like phrases and quotes for everything. It's really funny. But one of the ones that we use here a lot is the body never hesitates to heal when you present it with the right solution. So a lot of things that we tell our clients, or a lot of times we end up telling our clients, when you have a flexibility issue and you're doing all the stretching and the stretching's not helping your flexibility, that means stretching is not part of your solution. Check that box. Let's look somewhere else. The body will always, it will like soak it up like a sponge when you tap into the right solution. So a lot of times, especially like if you follow us on social media and you see some of our before and after pics, if you see some of our hashtag one session with AZDM posts, and you see changes in flexibility that we were able to gain in one session, we're not doing anything magic. There's secrets out. We're not doing anything crazy. All we're doing is understanding how the body works. All we're doing is really just drilling down and understanding our anatomy and our physiology, which thank God we're supposed to. But we're really understanding that there are things in the body, there's other systems, other structures in the body that can factor into that range of motion. There's other threats, there's other areas that could be threatened or that the body could perceive as a safety threat area that need to be neutralized so that it feels comfortable going into that new range of motion that you're trying to achieve. When we tap into that solution, the body's like, yes, oh my gosh, give me more. And that's where we get the before and after pictures that you might see on our social media. And those things can happen for you as well. Your body will be open and it will open up to that range of motion that you want when you tap into the solution that's holding it back. So if you're stretching and you're not getting any progress, that means it's not in your muscle tissue because that's what you're trying, that's the solution that you're giving, and it's not working. So again, that's another little tip to think about what other structures, what other systems might be holding back flexibility. Not to super put you on the spot, Nick, but does that kind of cover it? Is there anything like from a teacher or performer perspective that you want to add or a question maybe?
Yes, or a proposal.
Okay.
And
good.
This goes to my fellow dance educators who I love. I just feel sometimes as educators, we reach our wits' end, and that is when the opportunity to connect with Dr. Alexis is so awesome because this information you can use for your students, you can use for yourself, and it's our gift. It's Dr. Alexis's gift. You give it to us all to be able to help dancers and performers to be at their best performance level. And flexibility is so huge right now. I mean, in competition dance and concert dance and hip hop, I mean, in all commercial styles, concert styles, flexibility is a word you hear all the time. And I feel that everyone doesn't understand this definition of flexibility.
And you just made me think of something to add. This concept of flexibility and wanting to be more flexible, there are people who are wanting to do it safely. There are lots of you out there who are getting a growing awareness that concepts of certain types of stretching or certain types of stretch positions, the whole concept of overstretching, which is a whole nother podcast topic.
Level 2.
Yes, we'll talk about those things. We can talk about that in a different podcast. But that concept of overstretching, the concept of static versus dynamic stretching. I know a lot of people are familiar with those terms. So everybody with the desire to improve flexibility, there is an increasing awareness of certain concepts here and there. And that's letting us know that people are looking for best ways to do things safely, to do things properly. And that's another reason why we're presenting this perspective. Exactly what we were just saying. Doing it safely might require neutralizing safety threats. And those threats coming from the body may not just be in your muscle tissue. It might be somewhere else. So, that being said, it's really funny. We're doing this podcast right now and we're doing like so many different projects having to do with flexibility. So if you're listening, one, if you're not already following us on our social media, you need to be, because we got tons of stuff there. But we definitely have, what do we have? We have our New Body series. Our New Body series is an interactive online class. Some of them are with me, some of them are with some of our other performance coaches, and we go through exercise patterns step by step to help you accomplish the topic of that series. So some of them we did one that's for improving splits, and I think we're going to bring that one back soon. We've done improving your arabesque, so people who have decreased back flexibility. We've done improving your foot point for tight ankles and those who want to improve ankle flexibility. A whole bunch of other things. So make sure you're checking out our website and our social media about the New Body series so that you can follow us and do the exercises yourself.
You can do those live with us and get results.
And get those results. For you teachers, for you dance educators, you studio owners, everybody loves our online webinar, When Stretching Doesn't Work. That's what we call it. It addresses exactly what we're talking about, the concepts of looking outside of muscle tissue for opportunities to improve flexibility safely. We've got it as a digital download, and then it's also on our website when we present it live. When we do it live, we also include like a Q&A session between all the participants. So again, check out our website and check out our social media to find out when those events are happening, or the digital download is available all the time. And then lastly, for those of you who are in the education sector, you're a dance instructor, you're a studio owner, a choreographer, you're in the public school system, or just any type of education role for dance, we do have our Dance Med certification, which is, I mean,
amazing.
We're obviously biased because we created it, but we love it. We love it because it's super down to earth and easy to understand. I've always told my clients, or I've always told like the participants who enroll, or this might be you. You ever gone to a course, a continuing education course or a certification program, and you get the binder of materials and you go through the weekend and you feel great, and then Monday comes and you have no idea what you just learned, and you have no idea like how to integrate it or how to like apply it to your students, and then bless your heart, it just ends up being like a little binder and on the side of your desk in a box, and you like never open it again. We always say we never want that to be our certification program or any of our educational services. So we really focus on making things like really easy to understand, really easy to immediately apply to the dancers that you work with. So more information on that, check us out on our social media. It's all in the podcast. It's also going to be like in our session notes. All of our links to all of our social media is there. So like we said, we hope you enjoyed this session. Hope you were able to maybe get some better insight on the concept of flexibility. You know how to get a hold of us if you need us for anything. And we look forward to connecting with you on a future podcast or a future event. So take care, guys. Happy dancing.